Hello everyone. So recently I've been grinding at Blood Wolves for another potion piece, the Ash Half Moon kagtunak. I've been getting asked about what rotation I'm using, so I figured I'd make a video on it, as well as share a bit of information on the grind spot. If after this video you still have questions about the grind spot, feel free to ask me in the comments, or just pop by one of my streams on Twitch and ask me right over there. The AP requirement at Blood Wolves says 190, however I would recommend something like 210 or 220 AP with Kudum so that you can have a more efficient clear. Out of the 3 spots to grind the HP potion piece, Blood Wolves has the lowest AP requirement. However, it is also the most contested spot out of the 3 HP grind spots. So even if you have enough AP to efficiently grind the spot, you might have a difficult time defending yourself from all the players. Now, if you are after just the potion piece, there's only one mob that's going to drop that for you, and that's the Catgum Executioner. You could say there's a second mob that drops it in one of the minigames here, but we'll talk about that later in the video. Now just after this video, I had recently gotten a Tep Black Star, so it was a little bit easier to defend my spot. However, for this video I'm going to be using 245 Kudum with my buffs. The first 2 rotations that I'll be showing are located just east of the node at Catgums. If you go down behind the node to the right of it, you can find where we're going to talk about right over here. I'm going to be starting off right over here where it begins and ends, and then move on to the side right over here. And then afterwards, rather than killing both sides over here, I'm just going to move on to the right side instead, seeing as doing both sides is kind of time consuming to go back and forth. This rotation is going to heavily rely on you being alone down at the grind spot, so unfortunately if there's someone else on the other half of it, you won't be able to do the full rotation, but we're going to be doing another rotation in case that happens. The difficulty in Blood Wolves doesn't really come from the monsters themselves. They aren't too mechanically difficult and they're pretty squishy, so you don't really have to worry about much while you're grinding for them. Honestly, the thing I had to worry about most was my rotation, seeing as they died so easily that I was often left with skills on cooldown when they shouldn't be. The biggest thing I'm focusing on is how many skills it takes to kill a pack, and targeting mobs that have mostly executioners. This pack over here only has 1 executioner, but you can kill it if you'd like to on the way over here. Just a small side note, this little branch often catches you, so just be careful for it. Now here's the part where you extend the rotation if you're by yourself. You just go by these rocks over here, and you can hop down and continue just down over here. As I was saying, the difficulty in Blood Wolves primarily comes from the players that are here. It isn't uncommon to get many duel for spots per hour as well as many griefers. It's been happening fairly often that people will just go on an ult and then grind over top of you, so unfortunately your only options are going to be to either deck their guild, flag up and try to defend your spot and potentially go red, or unfortunately just change channels. Of course you could just outgrind them and ignore them and hope that they go away as well. Here's our last pack. On the way back I usually ignore that one because there's only one, and now we're back where we started. And with that we would have killed 52 executioners in this rotation, being the second most executioners in the rotations that I'm showing. Now if you're severely over clearing, you can hop down over here instead to get more executioners in the packs down below. Again, this is going to rely on the fact that you're going to be alone at the grind spot. Clearing these mobs over here, which also have an elite in them, is going to give you 6 more executioners on your way to connect with the rest of the rotation. I'll add that the large elite mobs do not drop the half Ash Moon kagtunak. And then finally, after clearing this last pack over here, you're just going to move on to where we previously connected the rest of the rotation and then move on from there. So then we end up right where we jumped down from where the rock was in the last rotation. Next up, we're going to be starting on this plateau that we were previously circling around for the last rotation. This is what I usually use, seeing as the spot is usually contested, so I don't really get the whole spot, so I usually do about half. When you end up on this plateau, and then you hop down, and then you can start your rotation. Unlike earlier, since we're starting off the plateau, we're going to be able to clear this whole little circle over here before we move up the stairs. Even though we won't be killing as many mobs, we're still going to be getting 40 executioners. And something that I like about this rotation over the others is that since it's not as big, it's a lot easier to see when someone comes into your rotation to contest you. A downside with this one is that if you have a lot of AP, you're going to be over clearing. However, when I got my Tep Black Star after recording, I was 265 Nuver and I still wasn't over clearing this rotation. Of course, your results are going to vary greatly depending on how good you are, how hard you're trying, and what class you're playing. I'm assuming that I'm going to be here for quite some time going after the potion piece, so I don't tend to try too hard so I don't strain my hand. That combined with the fact that the mobs are pretty easy to kill. In terms of silver per hour, I was making roughly about 60 mil per hour off trash loot and some of the other items. Blood Wolves is the type of spot that has many rare drops, so it's going to depend greatly on what you get. You can get a super rare drop from Manos clothing, you can get a Eye of the Runes ring, which is about 60 mil right now. There are regular kaganaks that you can combine to make a crystal that's worth about 10 to 20 mil depending on the time period. Don't forget also, just careful for the stick so you don't get caught in it. You can also get Hum crystals, which are about 10 mil right now, but of course can change with time. And of course you do often get the Catgum rings, which right now are only worth 1 mil, however you can just smash them together and hope to get some profit out of it. So if you get lucky you can make a lot of money here, otherwise you still make decent money if you don't. Alright, now we're at the end of the plateau where we first started. Now we'll be moving on to the last rotation that I'm showing. This next spot is only something that I use if all of the rotations are full and if Arsh is completely overrun. You can find it very close to the entrances to Blood Wolves, right over here. Now of course this rotation isn't going to be as good as the others, however it does have its upsides. We'll be starting over here where the rock boars are. This is where the rotation is going to end. Now most of these packs are only going to have one executioner, however I recommend that you kill the monsters that are near it, that way they don't follow you and cap your mob count since you're not going to be able to attack the next mobs if they're following you. At least until they de-aggro or they're out of range. As I was saying, what's nice about this spot is that since it's not too amazing, it isn't really often contested, and even when people do come by, they don't really fight for it, so it isn't uncommon that I've had about 2 to 3 hours to myself without any issues at all. Although because the spot is near the entrance, expect some people to wander through occasionally. While you're grinding here, there are going to be 2 minigames that spawn. One of the minigames will be that Garmoth will spawn and she's going to attack you from the sky with fire, and occasionally leave a box on the ground. If you destroy that box, you can get a rare drop from anywhere in Driegen. For instance, even though Orkenrad Belt doesn't drop here, I got an Orkenrad Belt on my last box. The next minigame, which I will showcase after this rotation, is going to be that a commander is going to spawn, sending out his troops to recapture the prisoners. If you didn't realize, there are caged catgums on the side that you set free when you hit them, and the more you set free, the more likely that you'll spawn the minigame. The mob that is commanding all of the catgums during this minigame is the mob that I was referencing when I said that there were kind of 2 mobs that drop the potion piece. I say kind of only because the catgum that's commanding all the other wolves essentially just looks like an executioner, although I believe it has slightly increased drop rates for some of the other rare loot, although it isn't confirmed whether or not it has a higher drop rate for the potion piece, and honestly I doubt it. You can see without trying too much I'm over clearing, however I don't always worry about grabbing all of the loot since I'm only mostly worried about the executioners. After doing 1 rotation altogether you would have killed 23 executioners, which isn't as much as the other spots, however it's pretty decent considering you don't get contested as often. So I like using this rotation when I just want to relax. And with that, we're done. After you're done, there's a section over here full of the rock boars where you just zip through and then you restart where you just started off earlier. Also, the rock boars are not going to attack your horse. When you see a message that says that there's a captain coming out to reclaim the prisoners, all you have to do is find where the pack is depending on the grind spot that you're using. You eliminate all the mobs that he summons and then kill him as well for a slightly higher chance at some rare drop loot, as well as a chance to get the potion piece. Overall, I actually really like Blood Wolves as a grind spot. I like all the rare drops that drop here and the events that spawn help spice it up. While it can be a little discouraging since you can't really get a grind spot to yourself, what I've been enjoying doing is switching to Arsha after a few hours of grinding and getting in some practice. That way you can get a small chance at getting the potion piece while also getting in some PvP practice, and if you don't have really high gear, you can still work on trying to survive between all the fighting. I hope this video helped answer any questions you had about Blood Wolves. If you have any other questions, don't hesitate to ask in the comment sections down below, or you could just pop by a stream and ask me straight over there. Otherwise, good luck with your potion grind, thank you for watching, and take care.